Namaste and good morning to all of you. Let's do our Vedic prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo, Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhuvah Swaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Asto ma Satgamya, Tamso ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamya. Om Sehna Bhavatu, Sehna Bhunaktu, Saviryam Karvavahi, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, Ma Vidvishavahi. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Thursdays we study Avadhuta Gita, and we are almost done with this great scripture. But before we get into the verses, I want to continue with the topic which we started last week about the sanskaras. Sanskaras. And I told you that when you think of something repeatedly, you create a sanskar. And these sanskars, they just lodge themselves into the subconscious. Okay. So in other words, it starts with the vritti. So vritti happens in the conscious mind, but the sanskars, they can remain in the subconscious mind. And these sanskars are responsible for our memories. So that's why it's very important to know about these sanskars, what kind of sanskars we have. There are different kinds of sanskars. And we went through the first three kinds: Kalesh sanskar, Vidya sanskars, and Bhog sanskars. Okay, Kalesh means affliction. And then I was telling you that Kalesh sanskars are 5 in number: Avidya, Asmita, Rag, Dvesh, and Abhinivesh. So the root cause of these Kaleshas is Avidya, the very first one. So in the soil of Avidya, rest of them grow. And Avidya is ignorance. From the ignorance comes the strong sense of ego, which is not based upon the reality of your being. That's why we get attached to the something which is not even true, something which is temporary. That's a rag. And then comes the dvesh, something we don't like it. We start hating it. So hatred, irrational fear. And the highest of this fear is abhinivesh, fear of death. Our death, other people's death. So these are all Kalesh sanskars. Then we talked about the Vidya sanskar, the knowledge. When we study something, when we do the swadhyay, knowledge sanskar. Okay, very important. They also go into our subconscious mind. Then comes the third one, the Bhog sanskars, the pleasure and the pain. Bhog sanskars. There's a different levels of happiness, different levels of bhog. So today we're going to talk about the fourth type of sanskar, which is called Karmasye. Karmasye over here, it means Karmasye sanskar is the result of the mental effect of the actions you have performed. Because whenever we perform any action, there is a physical effect in the outer world, but then there is a deeper effect that is internal. So the action itself has created a deep impact or impression in your mind. That impression is called Karmasye. So if you have performed good actions, you will have good sanskars in your mind. And if you have performed bad actions, naturally, the building blocks of your character, the sanskaras, will be negative, which will be bad. Make sure that easiest way to change the content of your mind is to perform good actions all your life. Because only the present is in our hands. Make it a philosophy of life that on everyday basis you are able to contribute positively to the life of another. And keep away from anything that constitute negative karma. Be aware of it. Be conscious about it. So that's why there's a huge concept of punya and papa, merit and demerit. Make sure your mental life remains positive. So that's how the Karmasye sanskar, that is a huge portion of your sanskars, always remain good, positive, reliable, which will give you happiness. You won't feel bad about yourself, because we know the minute we do something bad, we don't feel good. Whether others find out about it or not, but we don't feel good. So this can be done by ourselves only. Next category of sanskar is called Nirodh sanskar. These are the sanskars of control. Wherever you have restrained yourself, these type of sanskars will help you build better and better character. Because sometimes the fear of such sanskars can actually help you to keep other sanskars coming into manifestation. If you have a fear of losing a job, you will be more committed to whatever you are supposed to do. If you have a fear of getting some illness, you will definitely eat well. You will exercise. You will take care of yourself. So Nirodh is that. So one sanskar controls the other. So the Nirodh sanskars are the sanskars of restraint. So whenever you have restrained yourself so as to develop something in you, that's why this is at the fundamental of yoga. A yogic sadhak understands this, that how important Nirodh sanskars are. So this is like a yogascha chitvritti nirodha. Nirodh. Every time you have tried to develop some good sanskar, the level of the knowledge will remain with you. And that will help you to rise to the highest level. Nirodh sanskar. Okay? We don't want to slip back. We don't want to do something negative. We want to control all those negative emotions. Not by suppression, but with the help of the Vidya sanskar. Then the highest sanskars are the next level, which are called Pragya Sanskar or Bhakti Sanskar. Through spiritual practice and experience, these are produced. There is no other way. If you have a deep level devotion and if you have higher knowledge, these sanskars will come. Usually they come through spiritual practices or a grace of a guru. Deep levels of sanskars. These sanskars can actually transform your mind. That's how powerful these sanskars are. Okay, so bhakti, devotion. So these are all the sanskars that we are all capable of. And they decide almost everything about our mental life. But these sanskars, they manifest different ways at different points of time in our life. How do they manifest? There are stages of a manifestation of sanskars. There is a prasupta stage. That is like a dormant state. It's not that sanskars are not there, but they are dormant. They are sleeping. For example, a baby, a child. They're innocent in the beginning, and later on we see that certain sanskars, they erupt. Some parents say, we didn't even teach them. How did they learn this? Because of these sanskaras. Prasupta. Then the second way they manifest is Uddar sanskar. Uddar, manifestation at that level. Fully manifested state of sanskars. It's almost like an uncontrolled youth. Uddar. Fully manifested. It could be any kind of a sanskar. It could be a bhakti sanskar. It could be a kalesh sanskar. It could be a bhog sanskar. Any one of those could be. But Uddar, fully manifested. Then there's a vichin level of manifestation. Vichin means a hidden. One emotion controlled by another emotion. It's like a anger controlled by fear of karma. That leads to repression. Okay, vichin. It's not that it's not there, but other stronger emotion has suppressed the other emotion. Over-controlling spouse or over-controlling parent. Vichin. Then there's a Tanu stage. It is like a constantly exercising control over desire and emotion. They become weak. Tanu. Okay. Sattvic mode of life. And this is a normal state of a sadhak, Tanu. So you are just making them weaker and weaker by sadhana. And then comes Nirodh stage. This is overcome and controlled due to good positive sanskar. In Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, verse number 59, Lord Krishna says, Vishe vinirvatante niharasye tehina. Okay, got to learn how to control. Vishe vinirvatante. You got to stay away from the Vishe. And what happens if we keep on living a life like this? A sadhak's life, cultivating good sanskars and keep on eradicating the negative sanskars, then comes a time. There is a avastha, the technical name for that is Dagd Bij Avastha. Because sanskaras are the bij, they are the seeds. But the help of the sadhana, you have roasted those seeds. So it's a state of burnt seeds. It's almost like a rope which has been burnt. Cannot tie anything with it. Still looks like a rope, but it's burnt. So these sanskaras, with the help of the sadhana, they burn. Dagda bij avastha. There's no germination after that, no fear of adverse vritti or further sanskaras. So a sadhak of self-knowledge has completely overcome all the sanskaras. Dagda bij avastha. I gave you the first line of that Gita verse, Vishe vinirvatante niharasya dehina. The second part is Raso varjam, Raso apiyasya param drishtva nirvatate. So Lord Krishna said, this is the second part. This is where the sadhak goes with the help of that highest knowledge. All the negative, all basic instincts, they get absolutely burnt out. Rasovarjam, there is you really don't have any inclination, no thirst for it. Raso apiyasya. Paramdrishtva nirvatate. How did that happen? Because you had the vision of the Param, the Supreme. When you saw that knowledge of the Param, because how did that happen? How did you have a vision of that? The sadhana. But first we got to understand that we have this whole bag of these sanskaras. At this level, the sanskaras have no capacity to generate vrittis. Otherwise, the cycle continues. They cannot create any memories. They are completely vanquished. And what happens? How do we know we are moving towards it or not? Because there are countless sanskaras. This state produces great calmness of the yogi. You feel like that you are in control of your life. Absolute self-control. You will see that intense clarity of knowledge. The doubts have been removed. This morning I was listening to my Guru Dev Ji's lecture. He said there are 3 problems human beings have. 3 main hurdles. He said one is a parmad. The second one is alasya. And the third one is a shanka. These 3 problems on this path we got to remove. We should not be lazy. So a person at this level, no sanskars, is always active. We'll keep on working. Whatever needs to be done, we'll do it. The most efficient way. We'll not get involved into the useless actions, but whatever needs to be done, we'll do it. Alas is gone. Parmad is gone. Sanshaya is gone. That's how we know that we are moving towards this goal or not. So this state produces great calmness, more self-control, intense clarity of knowledge. Because of this, there's a powerful character. So this is the result of the Dagda Bij state of sanskars in his mind. That means everything has gotten purified with the help of the fire of knowledge. State of complete purification. So this is the power of spiritual sanskar. So it's not just a controlling the sensual and the sense-related sanskars of the mind. It's like a seeing everything the way it is. Because many times we can call ourselves good people because we have a good behavior. but we may not be strongly moral. Or we are not perfectly integrated within ourselves. We can fool others, but we cannot fool ourselves. So the way to overcome this is to generate these higher sanskars in the mind. That's why these sanskars, we need to talk about it to our children, grandchildren at a very early age. That's why our rishis, they had those 16 sanskar. All that is related with this. There's a reason for that. Only then we'll have a rishis in our society, in our families. Because our core of being is pure, but we have to just remove all this. There are two terms, Yog Bhrasht and Jivan Mukta. We often talk about it. Yog Bhrasht and Jivan Mukta, the difference between these two is based upon the Dagd Bij state of sanskar. So Yog Bhrasht, because Lord Krishna uses these terms also in Bhagavad Gita, Yog Bhrasht is who has generated a high level of awareness, who has generated positive sanskars, but who has gone back again, slipped back, reverted back to the negativities, back to the pleasure-driven life. Was a sadhak for some time, but slipped back for some reason. But Jivan Mukt is one who has completely transcended that level by burning up his sanskars. So they cannot germinate into any mundane vritti anymore. That is a perfect liberation in this very lifetime. I want you to understand that our life, our character is entirely in our hands, and it is all due to sanskaras. If we want to become Avadhuta, if we want to burn our ignorance, we got to be familiar with our own sanskaras. Whatever we manifest in the outer plane is what we have within ourselves. So change has to be made within ourselves. Vrittis and the sanskars, they have to be regulated in our mind so that we can have a great character outside also. Some of you might be wondering why I'm using the word vritti again and again. Because they are connected, vritti and sanskars. First it's vritti, then it becomes sanskar. And if you like me to talk about vritti, maybe next week I will talk about vrittis a little bit more. Okay, but this was about the sanskars. Okay, think about it, because this has to do with our sadhana. So very, I know sometimes these words, they throw us off, but if you understand it fully, then you know what to do with it also. Okay. So now let's look at where we ended our Avadhuta Gita book last week, verse number 10. Dattatreya is saying, as long as a person has both knowledge and ignorance and a sense of duality and non-duality, how can he be liberated? So as long as there's an ignorance, you cannot be liberated. Why should one who always enjoys the pure, unadulterated bliss of Brahma and whose innate nature is free from desire and ignorance try to be a bhogi? Shuddha Niranjan Samras bhogi. He won't like to enjoy it again. He won't become a bhogi again. That means, that's why I said that Yoga Bhrasht has definitely gone back, but a Jivan Mukta will not. Okay, So both vibodhai satatam yuktaha dvaita dvaite katham ihi mukta सहज विरजा कथम इह yogi शुद्ध निरंजन samras होगे. So that's where we ended our last week's class. Let's look at verse number 11 today. Bhagna, abhagna, vivarjit, bhagna, lagana, alagana, vivarjit, lagna. Evam katham ihi sar visaraha, samras tattvam gagan akaraha. Bhagna, bhagna means broken or disturbed. Abhagna, unbroken or entire, like a complete. Vivarjit, free from. Again, bhagan, fractured, broken. Lagan, attachment. Alagan, detachment. Vivarjit, free from. Lagan, attachment. Vivarjit, free from. Lagan, attachment. Evam means thus. Katham, how. Ihi, here. Sar, essence or substance. Visar, non-essence. Sam means one. Ras, bliss. Tattvam, truth. Gagan, sky or space. Akara, form. As it is beyond whole and part. Okay? Bhagan and abhagan. As it is beyond whole and part, there is no division in Brahma. Brahma is not attached to anything because it's beyond attachment and non-attachment. Since it is all-pervading existence, like space, how can there be any contraction or expansion? How can there be a sar or a visar? Okay, so he's taking our mind towards the Brahma. It's everything, it's everywhere, it's unbroken. Because sometimes we try to understand with the help of these terms, but we got to rise above this language and have the experience of Brahmahood. Sattam sarv vivarjit yuktaha, sarvam tattva vivarjit muktaha, evam katham ihi jivit marnam, dhyan adhyanai katham ihi karnam. Sattam, forever. Sarv means all. Vivarjit, free from. Yuktaha, unity. Sarvam, all. Tattva, truth. Vivarjit, free from. Muktaha, free. Evam, thus. Katham means how. Ih means here or this. Jivit, life. Marnam, death. Dhyan, meditation. Adhyane, by means of non-meditation. Dhyanai. Katham, how. Ih, this. Karnam, doing or accomplishment. Renouncing everything, the Avadhuta is always united with Brahma. So renouncing everything, that means no attachment with anything. Doesn't have to leave everything, just mentally, no attachment. So renouncing everything, the Avadhuta is always united with the Brahma. Transcending all elements, he is free. How can there be either life or death for him? What does it matter whether he practices meditation or not? Dhyan or dhyan. Okay. He is constantly in touch with the Brahma. He has attained the goal. Sometimes we might see him using the means. Sometimes not. It doesn't even matter in his case. He has reached the sadhya, the goal. Oneness with Brahma. For our sadhana, we need to use the tools, the means. He has reached there. Avadhuta. Indarjalam idam sarvam yathaha marum richikaha akhanditam anakaraha vartate kevalaha Shiva. Indarjalam, magic show, like an illusion. Indarjal. Kat idam means this means this world. Sarvam all. Yatha, like, just as. Maru marichikaha. It's a mirage in a desert. Maru marichika. Akhanditam, undivided, indivisible. Anakar, formless. Anakar, anakar. Okay, formless. Vartate, exists, stays. Keval, only. Shiva, absolute bliss. Shiva. The whole world is an illusion. It's a magic show. It's a Maya. Like a mirage in a desert. The indivisible, formless, supreme beatitude alone exists. So these are the words coming out of Avadhuta. Avadhuta Dattatreya. See, for us, this illusion, this Maya seems so real because we don't have any experience of Brahmahood. So for him, Brahm is the only thing which exists. Everything is Indarjal. It's a magic show. Okay? So from this clarity, from this experience, he is speaking. Dharam adau moksh paryantam niraha sarvatha vayam katham rag viragaicha kalpayanti vipaschita. Dharam adau, in relation to religious duties, etc. Dharam adi. Moksha, liberation, freedom. Paryantam, as far as. Nirih, indifferent. Sarvatha, completely. Always. Vayam, we. See, aham is I, vayam means we. Katham, how. Rag, attachment. Viragai, detachment. Cha means and. Kalpayanti, imagine. Vipaschita, wise person. Vipaschita is like a priestly people, learned people, wise people. Vipaschita. We, the Avadhuts, never desire dharma, etc. Okay? So no desire for that. So dharma, etc. means dharam, arth, kam and moksha. So righteousness, wealth, enjoyment or liberation. How then do the scholars imagine that we have attachment or detachment? Okay? Because those dharam, artha, kam, moksha, those are the goals given to us by the saintly people. By keeping that in mind, we should live our life. But Avadhuta has already reached to the final goal. So no desire for any of it. So that's what he's talking about. He's not putting down those four purusharths. He's just saying that they don't mean anything to us anymore. See, just like we learn in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, if the water is everywhere, person is not interested in a small quantity of water, will not hold it, will not desire it, because it's everywhere. So dharam, arth, kam and moksha, they are sure definitely for us to follow, so that we can attain that ultimate avadhuta avastha. Okay, so he says, we the avadhuts never desire these things, because desire is where? In the mind, and avadhuta has already transcended the mind. Mind is just an instrument, he has transcended it. So how then do the scholars, like a Vipashchit, those people, learned people, because learned people are the one who tell us. So he says, how do the scholars imagine that we have attachment or detachment? Last verse of this chapter, Vindati, Vindati, Nahi, Nahi, Yatra, Chandaha Lakshanam, Nahi, Nahi, Tatra, Samras Magnaha, Bhavit Putaha, Pralapati Tatvam, Param, Avadhutaha. Vindati, Vindati, one finds. Nahi, Nahi is not. Yatra means where. Chandaha, praise or versification, chand. Lakshanam, attribute or indication. Again, nahi, nahi is not. Tatra means there. Yatra means where, tatra means there. Sam is one, ras, essence, magan, immersed. Bhavit, putaha, becoming pure. Pralapati describes. Tattvam, truth. Param, supreme. Avadhuta, a free person. One who has shaken off ignorance. So freedom came. See, bondage is because of the ignorance. Freedom comes by shaking off the ignorance. And what is this ignorance? Ignorance is that I am body, I am mind, I am intellect. That's the ignorance. I am limited. It's all ignorance. So where the intellect cannot reach, how can there be any form of composition, chand? Because chands are, verses are production from the intellect. So it says where the intellect cannot reach. Because intellect is what? It is part of the Prakriti. Even though it is a subtler part of Prakriti, but still it's Prakriti. Where the intellect cannot reach, how can there be any form of composition? The great Avadhut, after purifying himself through meditation and becoming absorbed in infinite bliss, has sung spontaneously about Brahma. Okay, so he says it's not a poetry which came out from my intellect. Spontaneously, what I am just talking about it. Because our intellect might say that, why is he repeating some things? Some things may not make sense to our intellect because we think that we are well versed. He says, I'm just singing this, that's all. There's nothing more to it. So where the intellect cannot reach, how can there be any form of composition? Okay, because otherwise whenever we want to compose something, we write and rewrite. We correct it, we look at it whether grammatically it's right or not. So these verses may not be right grammatically here and there. Or maybe there's no sequence to this either. But he says spontaneously, I am, because absorbed in the infinite bliss, sam ras magno bhavit putaha pralapti tattvam param Avadhuta. It's coming from Avadhut's mouth spontaneously. So this is the end of 7th chapter, where we have a clear description of the state of Avadhuta. The purpose of this chapter is that state of Avadhuta. Now in the last chapter, which has 10 verses, it is the smallest chapter, he will give us a definition of the word Avadhuta by interpreting each of the syllables of that word, Avadhuta. We will see that how beautifully and va and dhu and ta, what do they really mean? That's what we'll learn. Let's look at one verse and we'll stop it over here. And then we'll finish up this book next week. Tvad yatrayaha vyapakta hatate dhyane na chetaha partaha hatate stutyaha maya vak parta hatate kshamasva nityam trividya aparadhana. Tvad means to you. Yatraya, by journey, pilgrimage. Yatra. Vyapakta, pervasiveness. Hata, destroyed. Te means your. Dhyanen, with meditation. Chetaha, of mind. Parta, transcendence. Hata, destroyed. Te means your. Stutya, by you or of you. Stutya. Maya, my. Vak, speech. Partaha, transcendence. Hata, destroyed. Te means your. Kshamasva, forgive, like kshama. Nityam, eternally. Tri means three. Vidya, aparadhan. Okay. Aparadhan means misdeeds. Okay. O Brahma, by going on a pilgrimage to seek you, so he's talking to the absolute reality, Brahm. He says, oh Brahm, by going on a pilgrimage to seek you, I have denied your omnipresence. I thought that I will find you on the bank of a river or on the mountain. So I have denied your omnipresence. By meditating on you, I have given you form in my mind. And thus denied your formless nature. By singing hymns, I have described you. And thus denied your indescribable nature. Forgive me for these 3 offenses. So this is coming after he sees Brahm everywhere. After he has realized this Brahmahood. And he says, these are the offenses I made. I thought you are in the temple or you are here and there, but you are everywhere. How can I describe you? Because their words are not enough to describe you. So this is like a innocent cry of a person who is witnessing all this, seeing all this. So same thing Arjun did when he saw Lord Krishna's Virat Roop. What did he do? The words kept coming from his mouth. He could not describe it. And he asked for forgiveness from Lord Krishna also. The same thing Avadhuta is saying over here, that I am asking for these forgiveness for these 3 offenses. Okay? So Bhagat becomes like this. He's not saying it to impress anybody. It's just coming from within, whatever he's feeling, whatever he's. I'm sure that the tears are rolling down his eyes, and he's just talking to those disciples also who came to him. He was hiding from him. He even went into the water to hide from them. But they just sat there. They just wanted to know, because they knew there is something special he has. We need to know that. So when they insisted, that's what's coming out of his mouth. Okay, so we'll stop it here. And if you have any question, we'll go over the question answers. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om.